Hello, aspirants, and welcome back to The Explainer. You know, when you're prepping for exams, environmental data can be, well, a lot to handle. So today, we're going to tackle a really big one for you, the FAO's Global Forest Resources Assessment for 2025. We're going to cut right through all the noise and give you the absolute essentials, the stuff you'll actually need to know about the state of our world's forests. Okay, so let's dive right in. The whole point of this massive report really is to answer one single core question for all of us. And that question is, what is the true state of our planet's forests right now? Not the headlines, but the real picture. Everything we're about to cover is going to help us build an answer to that. So, to make sense of all this, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the big picture of global forests. Then we'll deconstruct what they're actually made of. After that, we'll look at why they're such a vital resource, the threats they face, and how they're managed, and then touch on governance and restoration. And, of course, we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways you'll need for your exams. All right, let's get started with our first section, the big picture. We're talking headline figures and core concepts here. Honestly, these are the numbers and ideas you've got to have locked in. Okay, here's the first huge number to commit to memory. 4.14 billion hectares. That is the world's total forest area. Now, what does that even mean? Well, to put it in perspective, that's about 32%, almost a third of all the land on Earth. It's a massive, simple, and powerful statistic that really anchors everything else. Now, this next point is absolutely crucial because this is where a lot of people get tripped up. Deforestation and net forest area change sound similar, but they are not the same thing. Think of it like this. Deforestation is the gross loss. It's like a withdrawal from your bank account. It's any time a forest is converted to something else. But net change? That's your final account balance. It takes into account the withdrawals and the deposits. So all the forest losses and all the forest gains from planting or natural regrowth. Big difference. So when you do the math and look at that final balance, what's the bottom line? Well, the world is still losing 4.12 million hectares of forest net every single year between 2015 and 2025. Now, there is a silver lining. That rate of loss is slowing down compared to the past. But make no mistake, that is still a huge, huge area of forest vanishing from the planet each year. Okay, moving on to our second section. We know the total area of forests, but what are they actually made of? What's their composition? Let's deconstruct them and look at the different types and special ecosystems out there. So you can really split the world's forests into two main buckets. The first, and by far the biggest slice of the pie, is naturally regenerating forest. We're talking the overwhelming majority here. Then you have the smaller slice, planted forests, which are exactly what they sound like, forests planted by people. Now, inside that naturally regenerating category, there's a really special type of forest you have to know about. It's called a primary forest. Think of these as the crown jewels of our planet's ecosystems. They're ancient, untouched by any significant human activity, filled with native species, and their ecological processes are just humming along as they should be. These are incredibly important. Okay, now let's bring this home to India because this slide is incredibly important for the Indian context. When it comes to agroforestry, integrating trees with crops and farming, Asia is a world leader. But get this, just two countries, India and Indonesia, account for a whopping 70% of the entire world's reported agroforestry. That's just massive. It really shows the huge role India plays in this space. And here's another key data point where India is a major global player. Rubber plantations. This table lays it out pretty clearly. India ranks 5th in the world for the total area of land dedicated to rubber plantations. It's another important piece of the puzzle when we're looking at India's forest landscape. Okay, so we've looked at the scale and the composition of our forests. Now let's get into why they are so incredibly vital. In Section 3, we're talking about forests as a resource, especially their crucial role in storing carbon. All right, here comes another absolutely massive number from this report. The world's forests altogether store 714 gigatons of carbon. I mean, just let that sink in. That single figure tells you almost everything you need to know about why forests are absolutely critical for keeping our climate stable. It's just staggering. So, a great follow-up question is, where is all that carbon actually stored? Well, scientists break it down into 5 different carbon pools. You've got the stuff you can see, the above-ground biomass, like trunks and leaves. Then there's the below-ground biomass, which is all the roots. And then you have the non-living stuff, dead wood, the litter on the forest floor, and finally, the biggest one of all, soil organic carbon. It's all part of the system. All right, we've established how vital these resources are. So what are we doing with them? And what's threatening them? That's what our next section is all about. Threats, disturbances, and how we manage our forests. This chart gives us a really clear breakdown of the why behind forest management. What's the main goal? Well, the single biggest slice at 29% is production, for timber and other products. After that, you've got multiple use, conservation of biodiversity, protection of soil and water, and social services. So a whole range of reasons. Okay, trying to memorize all 6 of those management objectives for an exam can be tricky. So here's a little mnemonic to help you out. Just remember this sentence. People protect conservation's social mission often. That gives you production, protection, conservation, social services, multiple use, and other. Hopefully that helps it stick. When we talk about threats, fire is obviously a huge one, but the impact isn't spread out evenly across the globe, not even close. Look at this data from 2019. Subtropical forests took the biggest hit by far, making up a staggering 79% of the total forest area affected by fire. It's a really lopsided picture. All right, we're getting close to our final summary. But first, a really important section on governance and restoration. We're going to look at who actually owns these forests and what promises are being made to bring them back. This is all about the future. So who actually owns the world's forests? Well, the data is pretty definitive on this one. The vast majority, over 70%, are under public ownership. That means they're managed by governments on behalf of the people. Private ownership makes up the next biggest piece, at around 24%. Now let's end this section on a really hopeful note. There is a huge global push for restoration. We're talking about a collective pledge from 91 countries and areas to restore up to 190 million hectares of forest. That is a massive number, and it represents a real, tangible global commitment to try and turn things around. Okay, we have covered a ton of information. So now it's time to pull it all together. This last section is your comprehensive revision summary. All the key takeaways you'll want for your exam, all in one place. All right, let's just run through these key facts one more time. First, the total forest area, 4.14 billion hectares, or 32% of land. The net loss we're seeing each year is 4.12 million hectares. Don't forget those key definitions. Deforestation is the gross loss, net change is the final balance. And remember the India context, leading in agroforestry with Indonesia, and fifth in rubber plantations. The total carbon stock is a huge 714 gigatons stored in those 5 pools. The number one reason for management? Production. And who owns most forests? The public at 71%. And finally, that big restoration pledge, 190 million hectares. Got it? So I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. We've got these huge, ambitious pledges for restoration, which is amazing. But the big question, the real challenge for the next decade is this. Can the world actually balance all the competing demands on our forests? You've got the need for production, the critical need for conservation, and the fundamental rights of the communities who call these forests home. Finding that balance? Well, that's going to be the real test.